I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. I'm going to ask you to look to the left of you and to the right of you and then look back at me. And you should be looking at a face. That's important. Remember the face. Now, what if I told you that the most important tool for the future isn't your smartphone or an AI algorithm or the latest social media update? What if I said it was you? Yes, you. And how you choose to show up in any room you enter. I'm going to invite you to ask yourself a simple yet profound question that may just redefine how you conduct your next board meeting, enter into your next classroom, or your next one-to-one interaction. And that question is, who's in the room? And I don't mean physically present. I mean emotionally, intellectually, and actually authentically. In a world where we're being thrust towards academic and technological advancements, are we actually losing sight of the humans that actually fuel the progress? Point to ponder. I want to tell you a story while you think of that. Very early in my career as an educational leader, I walked into a room to lead a training for administrators, veteran teachers, and educational policymakers. My hands were sweating, my heart was racing, and imposter syndrome was screaming, Nicole, what can you teach them? At first glance, all I could process was principal, 20-year veteran teacher, PhD. But then during breakout, I realized something. The most critical aspect of the room had nothing to do with their credentials at all. It had everything to do with them as humans. It had everything to do with the teacher, the 20-year veteran that stays up all night long grading papers while taking care of her ailing mom. It had everything to do with the educational policymaker that actually grew up in a food desert, now fighting for equity. See, that's where it all changed for me. I realized in that moment that the magic did not lie in the tools that we bring, the outcomes that we seek. It lies in the humans that fill the room. It lies in the single mom who dropped out of school in the 8th grade, but who now has 2 children with diplomas. It lies in her personal pride, her resilience, and her hope, a quiet hope. When you think about these things, it takes us to consider 3 points that we're going to address tonight. And we'll call them keys. The first one's going to be us honoring identities. The second is going to be equitable access. And the third's going to be authentic connections. Let's go to work. The first one, honoring identity. Now, if we're going to reimagine anything or do anything differently, we must consider who people are as soon as they show up. Because as humans, we enter the room with a universe of experiences, skills, and silent dreams. Yet, in our society currently, we're seeming to be really fixated on tools, avatars, and data points, really not considering the people who actually help us get those things. Next, when we think about, I don't know if you're an educator in here, but if you've ever taught adults, I've worked with adults. If you've ever taught adults and you had a single man in your classroom who worked from his cell phone while working the 3rd shift at night and honoring his identity, I'll tell you, it will soar his retention, because it did. I wrote programs for adult ed, and apps were not my flashing point. It was who people were when they showed up in the room. And in writing for that, it brings to mind Khalil Gibran. Khalil Gibran has a quote that reads, "We are not the sons and daughters of our parents. We are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself." So what does that mean? He reminds us that we are all a global lens of potential, not a data point. So as we honor identity, let's transition into number 2, equitable access. Equitable access cannot be unless it's truly accessible to all. In my research, I have found that 25% of people in the U.S. who make less than $30,000 do not even own a smartphone. And 40% don't have home broadband. That's not a digital divide. That's a chasm of opportunity. So what do we do about that? When we plan and idolize support for these people, we have to do that with them, not for them. That's how we begin to bridge the divide. As we move forward in what we do, we must make sure that even when we have students in K through 3, those students have access to digital tablets. Because there's a student in rural Alabama that had access to a digital tablet that went from behind grade level straight to honor roll. There's also a program out of Detroit where there was an increase of 25% of employment due to them having a digital literacy program in place. So we've discussed honoring identity, we've discussed equitable access, and let's talk about the empathy imperative, and that's connecting the 3. Connection. Now, we can't have connection without empathy. With that said, I did some work in corrections facilities. Corrections facilities were not about text materials. It was all about hope deferred, reimagining it, and it was about seeing people where they were. I had a student that finished a 10-year prison bid in a program that I wrote. He came to me and he said to me, "Ma'am, because you see me, I can be." What I felt in that day, I cannot put into words, but the data does support it. Do you know that 50% of people that feel empathetic connections are more productive at work? Do you also know that 59% of employers that make empathy the main thing retain their actual employees? That will bring to mind Maya Angelou's quote, "People will forget what you say. They will never forget the way you made them feel." So it's up to us. Now that we know that honoring identity is essential, equitable access deals with true connection, and connecting has to have empathy in place. What are we going to do about it? 1, let's be more curious about the person that's sitting next to you. Let's not forget that you too had a first day. Let's not forget that you too have bad days. Let's make sure that we demand equity for all, because you too at some point or sometime may or may not have experienced being not accepted or believed for who you were when you presented yourself. So let's talk for the voiceless. And 3, let's create brave spaces. No matter who you are, you can show up and it's okay. So with those things said, I'm going to just ask you to do one thing, and some of you may or may not, and that's okay. If you feel safe, close your eyes and imagine a thing with me, just briefly. Imagine a world where everyone feels seen. Imagine a world even in the classroom, at your boardroom, or even in the prison. They feel as though they can still be or become, dream deferred or not. Imagine a time where there is a child who has opportunity that can reach heights beyond measure, even beyond their zip code. Open your eyes so that we can see anew. Imagine us all actually looking to the left and looking to the right again and actually seeing each other. So who's in the room isn't really a question. It's our call to action. It's our servitude. It's our ability to reimagine us. Because in that space, that is how we're going to be able to maintain and sustain humanity in a tech-driven world. Thank you.